Hello everybody. This is literally straight off the episode 6. While that's still uploading, I thought we would come back and fix the problem. If I'd thought about it, I would have just tacked this on to episode 6. But we'll give it a few minutes to see how it goes. So basically, what I was thinking was, how can we quickly, I was just going to copy and paste this down in there, but we don't need to. We can just we don't even have to do this bit, but, excuse me. So what we're going to do is call this now set previous state, just so it makes a bit more sense. And we're just going to put in here, this was where we used to have some like initial metrics have been set just as an indication that it worked out. So we'll put the previous metrics are now set. Okay, so we'll do that there, and then we'll have to change this to previous, just like so. So what we're doing, if you think about how we're actually working with this, it all runs down to this block here, where if selfish startup is true, we just set the previous state. If it's not true, i.e. it's already been set because we called this one and set it to false, and then we compare the metrics, and then we get our comparison data. So the easiest solution to our non-updating pickle, to me, off the top of my head, would be to do that. Simple as that. 1 minute 39 seconds in, and most of that was waffle. So let's see what we get here. So again, this was only in the data collection. Now for the rest of this video, we are going to take a look at some naming conventions, I think. Just because I did seem in that last video, let me get this running, because I've got a minute to catch up. And the previous metrics are now set, so that's working. The printout's good. Whether the data behind it's any good remains to be seen. Anyway, yeah, what I noticed when I was having a look at the file to the data down here is the naming isn't as obvious. So that is something that we're going to have a look at, because I don't like it, basically. Right, so we have some data. So let's get this up here for a minute. So the bid tick lower difference was -3 comparison to the 2. So what we got here? So bid tick lower. So bid lower than previous, which is what that should equate to. Those 4 values here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Should equate to those. So we'll just go by the common sense. Bid tick lower would be bid lower than previous. So there it's 22, and that's saying it's -3. So this should now be 19 then. Bid lower previous 19. So if this now says 22 in bid lower previous, yes, that actually makes sense. So we can go again. So from here, bid lower previous -5 would now make the next file, that should say 14 there. And it does. Right, so we'll get off the bid lower previous. We can't run 1 out of 4, 1/4 is doing good. So ask tick lower. So that's -9. So let's save this file. Let's just compare 2. So we can close all this down for a second. Close them all down. Just to, excuse me a second while I look at my phone. Things are seemingly all whittling on. Nothing important. So let's get back to business, because that was quite good. Sorry, phone, wife, stuff like that. So right, let's go from here. So we'll save that one on 25 to 26. So swap them over, so it makes sense. So we're comparing from there to there in this last one. So we're gonna have to go up here now, aren't we? So let's just copy these because they're the relevant ones to what we're doing, and we will get rid of all of that. That's all irrelevant. Things are buzzing. Right, and get this over here. So bid tick higher difference is 1. So from there to there, bid higher. So get my head back in the game. So bid tick higher. That's what we was looking at. One bid tick higher difference. So 1. So if that's +1, it's not saying negative. So this one should be 17 then, which it is. Right. So we're reading the data seemingly right. Bid tick lower difference was +2. So a bid lower 14. So we should expect 16 there, and we get it. And as you can see what I was saying, the numbers shouldn't always be identical. We were getting like, I think we were getting the lowers, weren't we? So it was 11, 11 every time. Or 33, 33, 42, 42. You know, it just didn't make any sense. Anyway, we'll quickly check these other two. Ask tick higher. So ask higher previous is 12. And we're saying it was +2. So the ask tick higher should be 14. Ask higher, 14. Ask higher previous, same thing. Ask higher previous, 12, 14, and that's saying it's 2. Then ask tick lower difference is 3. Okay, so ask lower previous was 8, so that should be 11, which it is. Cool. There we go. So that seemingly works, if that makes sense. That data is readable, and we can make an informed decision upon that. We can trust the sort of that. I mean, we can do as many as we like, or what we'll do, we don't need that, or these, here actually. So if we think about this logically, get back to the code. So we want the data collection. I'm just going to stop this now. We know it's working. This is just printing out to the terminal, so we're not actually losing anything. So low ask, low bid. We want to output this now. So I think we need to add in, let's do it anyway, regardless of what I think. My thinking is irrelevant. It's the action that matters. So if we add in the bucket number, the previous bucket number here, so on the self.previous bucket number, so that equal to none initially, and excuse me, we'll take that out because it'll do me head in otherwise, and then we need to find the bucket number. Now what we'll do, we'll pass it in here initially because we need to record the previous one. We could just do current bucket -1, but adds a little checksum, shall we say. But now we need to find out. So we've got new data. So let us just cheat the system a bit here, and we'll print the new data. And we're just gonna, we've got the time imported already, so I'm just gonna time.sleep because all we want is the new data. So you can go smaller than that if you want. But basically, I just want to get to here. Doesn't matter what we're doing. I just want to know the layout of new data. As we can see, there is our new data layout, and we want just to get the bucket number. So that was simple enough. So just copy this out of here. Now we can stop that. And we'll leave that in for a second. And we'll just do a current bucket is equal to new data. And we want that from the new data. And then we'll print current bucket. Okay. And we'll run it again. Current bucket 1032, and there we are. That's the one it just picked up, luckily enough. So what we can then do is, instead of passing it in, I suppose if we get the current bucket from the new data, so when we set the metrics, if we pass in the current bucket, see how this works, bear with me if I get it wrong. We pass in the current bucket, think logically, so we come in, nothing's set, we run through here, we pass in the current bucket, and we set that as the previous. So if we go self.previous bucket number equals bucket number, so that's what we're going to do with it when it gets there. Okay, let's shrink that up, and then when we come down here, previous state, if we pass in the current bucket as well to here, compare metrics, so if we add in a bucket number here and we pass that in through there, the current bucket number, so bucket number is equal to current bucket, and that will get us into here, sorry. Okay, and we can ignore all of this because we seemingly think it's working right. And then instead of returning this, if we have the, what we do in here, bid difference. So we're doing the current minus the previous. Current minus previous. We have to remember that. So I'll make a note here. Values are calculated in new minus old. Current minus previous. Depending on what day I read that, if ever. So I can't remember how or why. So yeah, it's basically so that we're always in reference to the previous one. So the new values are in reference to the previous one. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, sort of. So now if we have changed this to a return data packet, or sorry, output data packet, set that equal to there, just like so. And then in here, if we add a reference bucket, which would be, our reference is the current bucket, so this will just be bucket number. We already know that because we just made it up. So the bucket number, and then if we have comparison or test bucket, what is it? Comparison bucket would be the self dot previous bucket number. Okay. Now that's all fine and dandy. Now we just got to figure out somewhere to put it. So that's the stream output. So if we go in price data, and we'll call this, put this in its own little folder. So difference output. And we're only going to have one, there's not two versions of this, as it were. Or actually, let's run this up so I can keep that clear. Not that it makes that much difference. So stream output. So if we put it in the data exchange, because we will, I suppose if we split it, so we've got a, we don't need a reference copy, come to think about it, because we keep the raw ticks, this data is just derivative from that, so we don't actually need that. Oh, I don't want to collect the, or do I? Yeah, I do want to. Quite sure what's going on there. Oh, I do know what's going on there. We're sleeping for 1,000 seconds. That'll be why we're still getting a file stuck. Anyway, sorry about that. Again, makes no real difference as to why. Okay, so we definitely don't need to keep one here because we can just regenerate the data as we want. So in the data exchange, we'll stick our data in there. So we'll have a difference output in there instead. Okay, and inside of there, just like here, we need the instrument folder. So we'll add it in here. Euro USD. How are we doing for time? So we'll just get set up for this and we'll actually write the code a little bit later. So, well, in the next one. Okay, so we're going to need in here an output directory. Let's call it output directory, and that will be the data exchange. So we're in there, and we're not a stream output though, so we'll copy a bit too much there. We'll copy that part, plonk it in here. So we're data exchange, and we called it difference output. Output, and we want the instrument on the end of the, and just thinking how to, because obviously I suppose we could use the bucket number as a file name. This is obviously just a, so if we did something like buckets 1, 2, you see, because obviously we've got 2 buckets per quote unquote bucket. So I'm just thinking if we did something like that, and then obviously the last one would be, that'd be 1439, wouldn't it? 1440 would be the last ones of the day for it. So that would work. So I think I'll do that because it's the easiest way to get a slightly unique name for the day. But we are going to have to think about the date. So each time, how can this work? Each time we update the date, or each time we're taking a new file, and we set these previous things, we want to set it to the date that their previous file was on. So if the new file, if the date is changed, or if the bucket number is 1441, let's just figuring this out on the fly here, bear with me. So we do what we did a minute ago, print new data, and we'll just hold it up for a minute. What's missing? Something or other. Just going on about. Data collector.compare metrics is missing one required positional argument bucket number. That'll be Y. Set previous state bucket number. And then we want to put the bucket number in here. There you go. It's like my part, so I just noticed that in there. So we'll run this. And then we get that again. And we want this here. So we want the date. Okay. So bucket number. We want it before that. Not that it should make any difference. So string date is going to equal the new data. I need a coffee, apparently, and just date. And then we will put this below that so we can print it out. Make sure we got the right thing. String date. There we go. Run it again. Just wait for a file to show up. 24th of the 2nd, 2026. That's fine. So that'll come through each time. And I think shouldn't make no. I'm just thinking shouldn't make no difference if we make it dynamic. I'm going to call this one done here, and we'll carry on in the next video. But just as a brain thought for on the way, because I'm going to get coffee and try and wake up a bit. We get rid of that for a second. So the plan is going to be that we set the date on startup, and then I suppose we can just set it here, because the current we're not going to have a situation where the date has seemingly changed, have we? Are we? So when the date's actually changing, it's bucket 1 and 2. So I suppose we could do a check that if the current bucket is bucket 1 here or here, we set the date. So if we, well, I'll leave that for the next one, but basically we're going to create something like that, so it should hopefully dynamically update itself without us. And we've also got to add in, once we set the date, to make the directory, because the directories will need to be date stamped like these. Okay, so that's basically what we're doing there. So right, I'll wrap up in this video. We got the bit we wanted to get done, and in the next one we will focus on the output, and then we'll make a tool to actually run through the files. Now what have we got here? We got some dud data. I think I'm going to stop the stream, do what I did yesterday, not the live stream, sorry, this will run on for a bit longer. So we're going to stop the actual input stream, and we'll stop this as well, so nothing's running at the moment. Just make sure. I don't like to have you can't see that, but I just opened up Task Manager to make sure. Now you can see we've got a little backup Euro USD file there, so what we're going to do is cut that and just paste that into there. Okay, and the same with this one, if we can get to it. So we'll get rid of that as well. We'll just paste that in there just so we can see whether we can rejuvenate the data. But as you can see, each revision we get a little bit closer to solid output. So let me just restart this while we're here, and then I will leave you be for about 10 minutes while I have coffee, and then I'll be back. Okay, so that's gonna run through, and we want to start this one as well and make sure we're not waiting. an hour or so. However long that took. No, so we're just going for it. So that's fine. That's eating that data up. Stream output. And price data. So Euro USD. A bit concerned. Now we've got one file and not the other, unless that was just happened to be set there. So we just make sure our folder appears and we actually get an output file. And the reason for that is obviously in here, in these ones, we have incorrect calculations. So what we will do and can do is we can actually remake this file with a tool, because we have all the data. This is the only thing we actually need to generate that part. We just got to run it back through and then remake it. So we actually have the data to do that if we want to. And I think I do, just for the fun of it, shall we say. So we're just going to wait for this to actually start up and give us an output. Make sure we haven't broke it. Well, we didn't actually touch the stream, so I would imagine we're good. So there we go. So we got the previous date is now set and none. So always something. What are we printing off here? We haven't returned the comparison data packet, so that's what that is. Okay, so no problem there. That all looks seemingly healthy and normal. And we've got plenty of timestamps, so we'll call that done. And we'll get on with the output. So fixing that's not broken, but we'll get the output done in the next video. Thanks for watching. Be sure to do your liking, subscribing, sharing, talking crap, leave a comment, do what you want. But be happy, take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video where we'll finally get this output working. I promise you, you have my word.